With the reveal of Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, everyone hyped up for the game, more than likely even yourself included, after calming down from the awesome trailer, probably thought something along the lines of, I wonder what the full roster for this game is going to be like. Well, today, I'm going to do my best with the information they've already given us to predict exactly that almost immediately after announcement. So this means no leaks, no rumors, just deductive reasoning off of the hints they provided to us so far. This is not just using characters that I myself want to be in the game, but characters that whether I like them or not, I think would be in this title in particular. But before we get into all the characters I think they will use for the full roster, we have to establish and work along a couple of rules that they've given us and hinted at us so far. So as I'm breaking into those rules, make sure to take a second to scroll down and hit that like and subscribe button to show off your hype for the game and also stay in the loop for everything Marvel Fighting Souls, while we reach for our goal of 25 likes for this video. As for the rules, here they are. 1. From their PlayStation blog post, we know that they want characters in this game that they consider the quote-unquote face of the Marvel franchise, but that they also want to leave a little room on the roster for characters that can provide varying playstyles and also include uncommon characters that usually don't make fighting game rosters. 2. We know that they want to stay away from characters commonly used or used before in other Marvel fighting game franchises like Marvel vs. Capcom from an interview provided by one of the developers. This doesn't mean that they won't use any of the characters used in those IPs, but I think this means it'll mean crossover characters between the two fighting games will be way less likely if they can help it or justify it. But this rule is difficult to understand fully unless you're a developer in that roster decision room, so I'll just be doing my best in that regard. 3. This is the genre's first 4v4 fighter. Because of this, I think this means the roster should be somewhat big on launch. I personally think the usual roster size of 20 to 24 characters won't cut it under these circumstances. And this would lead to too many people running some of the same character teams pretty commonly. So I think they will be shooting for somewhere between 32 minimum characters to 44 characters on the higher end for the initial launch roster. Because I'm a cynic, we're going to predict the roster based off if they give us the minimum on this, which is 32 characters. 4. Because of the vast number of characters when it comes to launch characters, I think we can expect them to all be standard humanoids. So that means no characters like Jeff the Landshark or MODOK. Sorry guys, you're gonna have to wait to see if they add you in a DLC fighter pack. 5. There probably won't be characters that are too similar to each other and could be considered echo fighters. Even if their movesets could look different, if they look too similar, I think they won't end up using them. For example, something like having the Hulk and Red Hulk on the roster, but also to the degree of having Peter Parker Spider-Man and Miles Morales Spider-Man. Even though they have the potential to have entirely different kits and movesets, we'll consider it an Echo Fighter in this prediction video in particular. 6. From the initial 8 they've shown so far in the game's debut, they've shown that they're willing to do famous characters like Iron Man and Captain America, more obscure characters like Robbie Reyes' Ghost Rider and Miss Marvel, big villain type characters like Doctor Doom, and are also dipping into the X-Men with their example character of Storm. All of these characters were shown in their initial announcement trailer for the characters revealed, so we will be looking deeper and pulling from those types of groups as well. 7. Background elements and stages, and even signature/super abilities shown in the trailer, will be treated like they are a little more valid for the most parts as hints as to what characters might be in the full roster for the purposes of this prediction video. Speaking of which, that brings us to our first character prediction for the full roster, being Thor. Thor is shown off in one of the stages that they showed off during the announcement trailer, with him being in a sort of Silver Age hero costume along with Iron Man and Captain America in the background in the form of a tribute statue for the Avengers. And as the other two are confirmed to be in the game already, I think we can safely say that he might be in the game's roster as well. As a side note, this could also be a preview to some of the skins that may be in the game too. Next on up, we have the Hulk. Although I don't see any stage things that could indicate the Hulk other than just the Avengers Tower in the background and him being a staple part of that group throughout many mediums, we do have Iron Man during his super using his Hulkbuster suit to go ahead and decimate his enemies. And to me, you can't have the Hulkbuster be the pinnacle of his abilities without a reason for him to have it in the game in the first place. So, in my opinion, Hulk is a pretty safe bet on making the roster as well. Another character I think will make it into the game sneakily is Norman Osborn's Green or Hobgoblin. If you look closely during the stage transition when they do the wall breaks, you can see posters for Norman Osborn running for president. And with Spider-Man being on the roster and helping with having an extra addition to the villain side, I think it makes sense to have one of the goblins join in the fray in this Marvel mashup. Having stage references like this could also hint to a potential plotline in the game's story, if it in fact has one, and what it could include. Now we break into the can of worms that is the Fantastic Four. This might be controversial, but even though the Baxter building is in the background of the stage, and they are literally 4 members that would be super fitting for the 4v4 playstyle of the game, I don't think all of the Fantastic Four members will make it into the launch roster. The reason for this is Ms. Marvel already kind of makes Mr. Fantastic obsolete when it comes to the stretchy character, and she was a part of the game's reveal. While the Thing is your typical big body character, but we are already assumingly getting that through the Hulk, who in my opinion is almost guaranteed to be in this. So I don't think he'll make it into the game either, at least not on launch. When it comes to the Human Torch, I think he has way more of a chance, especially if they make him some sort of flying or hover-centric character. But to me, the only one I truly think would make it in, if she even does, would be Invisible Woman. She's unique enough to where her powers and character design would be fresh on this roster, unlike Human Torch because of the whole fire thing and Ghost Rider already being in the roster. But if not her, I think there could be another character to represent the Baxter building while also keeping the roster slots of the Fantastic Four to 1 character slot, and it's still making sense. This character would be none other than Franklin Richards, aka the son of Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman. I'm undecided which I think would make the roster over the other, so I'm going to count this character slot as a this or that character. Either it's Franklin taking one of the slots, or Invisible Woman. But the more I think about it, the more I like the idea of Franklin representing the team though, so I'm leaning to thinking it might just be him alone. After that, we get into a more simple deduction, this time off of another part of the stages shown off during the trailer. In one of the stages, you seem to be in an alleyway that is home to Daredevil's base of operation and law office. If you look closely, you can even see Matt Murdock holding his cane and listening to what's going on outside through the window. Because of this, I actually think this hints at him possibly finally making it into a fighting game roster. I would assume when Daredevil actually is on the team, his little window cameo will go away, like they've done on other fighting games when a character is selected, and they have an on-stage cameo as well. Now when it comes to background stage references, we have 2 that are very similar, being Luna Snow and Dazzler. 2 performers in the Marvel space, but of the 2, I think only one will make their way into the roster, which I personally think will be Dazzler. After being teased in the Capcom line of games through their stage backgrounds and even endings, I think it's finally time she takes the main stage and puts on a show in the fighting game space. And let's be frank, with Marvel Rivals, Luna has put on more than enough shows for a while. When it comes to stage references, I think that is all personally that will make it into the game, at least on launch, and we can chalk the rest of the character references as just fun little Easter eggs. As much as I would absolutely love J. Jonah Jameson as a fighter on the roster, I know deep down it's probably just a pipe dream. So finally we move on to other characters that are just more guesses than anything else. When it comes to the X-Men, few come to mind more than Wolverine and Cyclops as the real staples and faces of the group. But because both are also flagship characters when it comes to Marvel vs. Capcom, I believe only one of them will make it into this game. And truly, this could be another one of those this or that characters for sure, but personally, out of the 2, I think Wolverine has more of a shot of making it in than Cyclops. Not only do I think Wolverine is sort of the face, as they say, of the things like the X-Men, but he is also one of the biggest fan favorite characters that jumps into other collabs frequently. Think Avengers, his stint in the Fantastic Four, and of course his duo antics with Deadpool. who, funnily enough, is another character I could definitely see making the list. Deadpool has carved out a great and unique niche in the Marvel IP, and with him being just as plug and play in groups as I just mentioned someone like Wolverine can be, I think you could say the same about Deadpool, and with his recent resurgence with the Ryan Reynolds movie adaptations, I think Arc Systems might agree that he is definitely a character people can't seem to get enough of. When it comes to heroes fans just can't get enough of, I think we definitely have to include someone like Black Panther. Black Panther has quickly become a fan favorite through his debut in the MCU, and is among one of the most popular superheroes in modern day. Not only that, but he also has his roots in groups like the Avengers, a long-standing relationship with the Fantastic Four in the comics, and is just an overall cool character that I think is long overdue for a prominent character slot in a fighting game title. Next, let's transition to another possible villain for the game, with the obvious choice being Thanos. Thanos can be another great addition to the roster, and with something like maybe the power of the Infinity Stones, he could bring a really unique moveset and playstyle when it comes to a gameplay sense for the game. Speaking of villains, let's add another in the same vein with Loki. Loki could bring a cool ranged and zoning playstyle if they gave him something like his scepter and have his abilities work around that. With our presumed addition of his brother being Thor, it would also make for a good dynamic and make sense from a possible narrative perspective. Next on up, let's add another X-Men in the mix, this time with the one we previewed over on the thumbnail with the addition of Rogue. Although she has appeared in previous fighting games iterations before this, I think it's just because she is a staple heroine from the X-Men team. I mean, even thinking back to the early X-Men movies before the MCU was even established, Rogue played a major part in the whole thing and countless comic lines while being a fan favorite throughout all of it. All of this really makes me think that she will be one of those face characters mentioned by the developers. Along the lines of one of those face of the franchise characters, I think we have to go ahead and include someone like Captain Marvel as well. I mean, Marvel is literally in her name, and we already have Miss Marvel who debuted in the reveal trailer, so I think it only makes sense we get her in here too. Next on up, someone kind of unique but still someone that has his own niche popularity, especially out of the old movies they had. This is a character that might be one of the bigger reveals throughout something like a popular event, say something like EVO. Personally, I think it's possible to see the reveal of someone like Blade joining the roster. Blade has been teased time and time again in joining other Marvel-centric fighting games and just games altogether, but for one reason or another, they never pulled the trigger. So I now think with a fresh slate and wanting to introduce new fighting game characters, I think Blade fits the bill in every sense of the idea. Going back in and dipping into the villain pool, I think this is a great opportunity to add someone like Ultron. With him being a major villain in a lot of plotlines against the mainline Avengers, and with the ability to have unique playstyles from different factors, with either being a more flight-centric character, or even focusing on something like drones, they would be able to do a lot in having the gameplay vary with a character like Ultron in the mix. Dialing it back from the villains, I think it's time to add an anti-hero to the mix. This one is a definite face of the franchise, with many collabs and variants as well. I'm talking about none other than Venom, who in my opinion could have a unique playstyle with his symbiote abilities, and funnily enough, I think because of common abilities displayed in things like video games and comics, he could have decent range on his abilities and moves to boot. Coming back into the range of heroes, well, kind of, I think we can include someone like Moon Knight into the mix as well. A more obscure character until recently, where he has Oscar Isaac playing him in his live-action adaptation, and a fun adaptation in something like Marvel Rivals. In my opinion, they also have the option to have his playstyle be very unique in this game as well, as they can make him a close-range menace with his combat prowess, or they could even make him something as unique as a stance character with his different personalities all being a different type of playstyle in their own way as he cycles through them, adding to that diverse playstyle that they mentioned they would like to have in the game. Showing off some more love to range characters in terms of magic powers for Marvel, I think a fine addition to the female side of the roster would be Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch is more popular as of recently due to the traction she's getting with the MCU and stuff like Marvel Rivals, where I think she has the chance to shake up the playstyle substantially in my opinion with her magic. Speaking of magic, and a way for us to add yet another femme fatale to the game, I think this would be another this or that situation more than likely, but I'm pretty sure they would add one of these two female X-Men characters. But I truly don't know exactly which it would be. They are both fan favorites, but also aren't ever real main characters per se. The this or that situation in my opinion would either be Psylocke or Magic. Both would offer unique playstyles to the game and are both a more niche down fan favorite type of character that fans would love to see in the limelight. After that, let's go back into the Fantastic Four side of things, but on someone more out there, per se. Of course, I'm talking about none other than the Silver Surfer. They could vary the moveset to be pretty much to their liking with this character, while bringing more Fantastic Four representation as well. If this game does have a big story when it comes to a galactic scale, the Silver Surfer is sure to be included for that reason alone. This next character could be another this or that character, but I think they would choose to niche down even more on this one. At first, I was thinking one of the Spider-Man female characters would make a great addition to the roster, with Black Cat coming to mind first. Then I remembered the Ava version of White Tiger that I remember was very niche, but people were big fans of in things like the animated show that Spider-Man had back in the day. I think either of these two would make a fine addition to the roster, while the latter would provide more of what they said that they wanted in terms of deeper cuts in the character pool. This then leaves us to our final 3 additional slots for characters. To start it off, let's start off with something wacky, and someone I think they'll add that has a very limited representation, especially in the fighting game side of things as a playable character. I'm talking about none other than Nick Fury. Nick is always around the cast of characters, of course being mostly the Avengers. He's always deep in all of their stories, but is usually never an actual character in these types of games. Having him be what maybe a Punisher would have been with a focus on weapons and gear might be a great route to have him work gameplay wise as well. Second to last on the list, we have a very unique style of character opportunity with someone like Mystique. They could handle her in many different ways, where she is essentially a doppelganger character, or just someone who can steal moves for an allotted time, or even just someone who does her own thing and has her own set of unique abilities and playstyle altogether. I think a character like this could really help them achieve their goal of unique gameplay styles and then some. Then last but definitely not least, going along the X-Men route, but this time in terms of villains, having someone like Apocalypse would be a good character to round out the X-Men side of things and shore up the villain side as well. So sitting back and looking at this constructed roster, I feel like it has everything the developers have mentioned that they want in the game. Diversity from other Marvel fighting games in terms of roster, when it doesn't affect them showing off faces of the IP of course. It has some niche characters like the this or that of Psylocke or Magic and Blade, all the way to the deeper cuts like Dazzler and the this or that of the White Tiger or Catwoman. Overall, on the question if I would like this roster personally, I don't think it's bad by any means, but I would definitely have a different set of characters for sure, which I might show off by making it into its own video down the line. This, of course, is a prediction of what they would probably use super early into the game's lifecycle with no other confirmed characters yet, or even a ballpark number of how many characters will truly be making it into the game. In terms of what my team might look like based on these roster changes, just character-wise alone, it would probably be something along the lines of Blade, Doctor Doom, Rogue, and Wolverine. But that's just more my bias talking, as we don't have a real fundamental idea as how these characters would actually play as, even from the small gameplay elements we've seen from Doctor Doom himself. Overall guys, that's the roster prediction I have for this game. Of course, let me know who you want to see make it into Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, what you think of my predicted roster, and who you would play if this was the final roster on launch day of the game in the comment section down below. For everyone who's made it this far, thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. If you enjoyed or found it entertaining, make sure to scroll down and make that like button glow so we can reach our like goal of 25 likes for this video. While you're down there, consider subscribing as we'll be covering Marvel Fighting Souls as updates come out, and make sure to check out some of my other Fighting Souls content, including a breakdown of everything we know about the game, where I covered the trailer and the PlayStation blog post about the game in full. And if you're interested in something like GTA 6, I have a full-on podcast you can check out where we cover all the latest news on the game. As always, your support through your viewership, liking, and subscribing is always greatly appreciated and helps me out tremendously against the villainous threat that is the YouTube algorithm. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to catch you guys next time. Peace!